I'm Yogi Chris from IMC Nation, Yogi Chris PhD, founder of Ninth Limb Yoga, captain of IMC Nation, one of two captains, highest rank under the founder. I live with the founder, AZD, streaming to you from IMC Base 1. So that's what this podcast is. We're streaming to the my Instagram, the business Instagram for IMC Nation, and a whole bunch of YouTube accounts and whatever. So welcome, everybody. We're also on Zoom, live audience. Today, I'm talking about improving your condition. And we have officers in IMC Nation. It's a hierarchy, and there's a ranking system so that the power can be distributed. That's just how organizations are. So I'm, like I was saying, I'm captain, but we were having officers meeting earlier today, and something that's come up many times in officer meeting, which is just me meeting with the top ranking people in IMC Nation, and we're discussing IMC, what you're doing. Like there's clothing lines being produced, there's camps that are being produced at different bases. We have different bases where the guys are living together and they're organizing business amongst themselves. There's all kinds of different endeavors. There's a real estate company, IMC real estate company, lots of stuff going on. So I'm meeting with these guys and we've been meeting, at least once a week, maybe more, for almost a year now. And one of the things that's come up many times and has also received great feedback about that it's useful is ethics. And ethics meaning the science of survival, essentially, like the beliefs, the decisions that you're making so that you survive better, and how that plays in to emotions. Like, for example, positive emotions. When you survive better, you naturally will feel better. When you survive worse, let's say you gamble and you make some money, you feel good. You gamble and lose some money, you feel bad. Like you work hard, you make some money, versus you work hard and you don't make enough money, or you waste your time doing something like video games or just fucking goofing around, but you really had something that you needed to do. And so it got delayed, it didn't get done. Survival is work. You feel bad. There's a bad feeling. There's mixed feelings. You might feel good because you did something bad, which was really a free expression of your spirit. But did you bring your survival up or down? And that being ethics, your personal ethics, what is raising your survival or not? So like, for example, a lot of guys on different Instagrams and TikTok accounts or whatever, they don't have the money to join a $97 mentorship program with the top player on the planet that knows so much about relationships. It's just beyond. And that is, there's a couple of situations going on there. It could be lying, fibbing, whatever. They could be not tapping into what they have available to them. They got some Jordans that they're not selling, or, some bracelet that they never wear that they're holding on to. And then there could be the situation where they really just don't have the money. And that would fall into at least a couple different categories. One would be people in like third world countries like Cameroon or something. I don't even know if that's third world, but they're somewhere that the income is way lower than it is here. And we don't drop the price just because somebody is from Zimbabwe. Like it's still $97 a month. Okay, so there's that. And then there's the other condition where they're in Canada or maybe even Mexico or United States. That's just funny to me. It's like pathetic funny. It's like with something so pathetic, like, when you see someone try to play basketball and they're just so bad at it. And why is that funny? Because I don't know. It's just embarrassing. So it's embarrassing, really, that person. I'm not talking to kids. These are guys that are adults. They could go to war and kill someone. They can drive a vehicle. They can vote. They do all this stuff, but they can't come up with 97 to improve their life when they say they want it, need it. And I know they want it, need it. I mean, like I said in the last episode or two episodes ago, I know the condition of men to a large extent. I'm sure a year from now, I'll know more. 10 years from now, I'll know even more. And I know the culture is changing, so there's always more to learn. But I'm not saying I have complete, full understanding, but I know to a large extent, men are really suffering with women. They don't have a clue what they're doing. And if they have some clue of what they're doing, they're getting stuck at a certain level where they're not in a fulfilling relationship, or if they, quote, they're not expanding their lines, expanding their influence with new women. And so they're really cutting off what do you call it? It's like you're cutting your own lifeline. It's like you're out there on a flotation device and you cut the rope to the main ship. The rope to the main ship is your ability to meet new people. A lot of guys, they're going out and they're floating on this thing in the ocean of women out there, and they grab one and they hold on to it and then they cut the line, and then they're out there forever floating. And they don't realize that the flotation device is, as soon as it's just going to deflate, and then the guy's going to sink, he's going to let go, and then all of a sudden the flotation device will inflate again and go find another person to hold on to it. Meanwhile, he's out there like lost. And, you know, there's a lot of conditions to your existence. There's a lot of ways to measure your existence and how you are as a human right now, producing or not producing, surviving or, you know, you're obviously surviving if you're watching this, but to what degree? Survival is not death or live. That's this binary, you know, it's a big spectrum. You're surviving better, and survival isn't really measured from the outside. The, you know, stats and everything is, but it's not how much money you have in your bank account and how well are you surviving. How do you feel about your survival? That's why it's important to feel good about how you make your money. You got to make money and you got to feel good about how you make your money. It's not necessarily an easy world out there. I just don't see guys having the right ambition, the right like follow through. It's like they're on the sidelines talking about, I want to be a champion, this or that athlete, but they're never working out. They're not doing anything. Or they're, I don't know, they're watching a bunch of videos and never getting started or something. There's something doing something indirect. They want to be a champion runner and they're bicycling everywhere, but they keep saying they want to be a champion runner, but they don't want to run because whatever, it's hard, and they'll see how bad they are when they start. And then they'll get discouraged because they want to be, they still want that external recognition or something. So what's the thing to do? Well, on officers meeting, we're talking about a lot of guys, they start in a condition of confusion. They don't really have bearings or an orientation of where they're going or what they're doing. And it's important actually for you to center yourself and recognize where you are. Where are you right now? And if you just ask yourself that question, maybe 10, maybe 15, 20 times in a row, maybe 100 times in a row, where are you? It's amazing how deeply you'll begin to answer the question. You'll be like, where are you? I'm on earth. Where are you? I'm a being on this. You don't necessarily need to verbalize your answer to it, but as you ask yourself, where am I? Where am I? Where am I? You start to place yourself in time and space. You start to place yourself in your storyline, which is important to get a bearing, because the next step is going to be, once you figure out where you are and you get clear on it, it's going to be, where have you been? Where are you now and where have you been? Hopefully you're somewhere different than where you've been. And if you're not, then it's obvious why you're in a condition of confusion, because you're not changing your condition. But a lot of people, they'll feel in a condition of confusion, but they've really improved their condition from the past. So seeing, where were you 3 years ago, 2 years ago? What was your condition 1 year ago? I don't know, go back 10 years. Go back even a week. It doesn't matter, like, where were you? Where are you? Now you start to get a trajectory. It's like 2 points on a line. I was there and I'm here and I'm actually moving. Next is going to be something like, and remember, last week I talked about L. Ron Hubbard and AZD's game. This code of ethics that I'm talking about, which I don't know if I would say I'm a beginner at it, but studied a book. I've studied a book and I've seen it in application. And it's so, I mean, this lifestyle, it's mind-boggling. It's amazing how it works. You know, living with AZD, living this IMC lifestyle in a base, how we communicate with each other, how we think about women, which is nothing. We don't regard it so special how we think about women. We think it's very natural, but it's very extreme compared to everybody else. And that's amazing to me, because how they are is very extreme to me. It's extremely just like sacrificial or something. It's like guys are sacrificing themselves out there because they think they should or something. I don't know, because they think that's the best way or the only way to get access to what they really want, the pleasure of a woman. Man. And so it's amazing, you know, how our mentality is treated by the masses, and the correlation or the corollary that is with how L. Ron Hubbard's writings is treated by the masses. So even just bringing up LRH and ethics and talking about this stuff, it's like, it's hard for people to stomach and to face it. But that's what it is. Like L. Ron Hubbard's way of writing about ethics and this ladder of decisions, or this ladder of steps to take that will improve your condition, is Unreal, dude. It will unravel what you think of is the world, and you'll start to have a real grip internally on your mood and how to improve your condition, your internal experience. It's amazing. So once you find out where you are, once you find out where you've been and where you are now, then it's important to understand you have a post in life, a position. You might be a teacher. You might be a guardian of a base. In your own life, you might be husband, you might be boyfriend, your son, maybe a father. You have posts, and there's lots of different posts. There's there's the post of United States citizen or California citizen or wherever you are. There could be a post like at the martial arts academy, you're the teacher or you're the black belt or something. You might be at school and you have the post of a student. You'll start to feel, you have a post that you've agreed to, and you'll start to feel bad if you're not performing the duties of your post that you've agreed to. Mentally, you've formed agreements with other living beings that this is your post. And if you act contrary to your post, you'll start to feel bad. Or you should just go resign from your post. Then you won't feel bad. But you want that post. So you got to take actions on the post. But we're just getting to recognize the post. We haven't even gotten to the actions to take to raise your stats, but you have some stats for that post. Like a guardian of an IMC base is an ambassador of the IMC Nation Tech. So you should be spreading it somehow, talking in person to people. Like I was telling the guys from base 5 to start a meetup where they do the calisthenics, because he wants to make his base into the base leader there wants to make a phase 1 calisthenics. Phase 1 is part of the process that we have here. It's a phase 1 calisthenics base where they host, more or less retreats, camps like we do. But it includes breath work and some yoga. It's everything that they do at that base. And okay, so you get the word out. So base 4 does pickup. Base 3 does real estate. Base 2 does the AZD lifestyle, but at base 2. Because base 1, we're fully supporting the AZD camps and the AZD businesses and everything. That's what we do. We do business with AZD. Base 2 promotes IMC Nation and exemplifies it. Base 3 is the real estate branch of it. Base 4 is pickup. Base 5 is looking at being this calisthenics thing. And how was I getting into that? Stats. So spreading the word. Oh, so I was telling them start a meetup. Like base 2 started this meetup where they have a barbecue every Wednesday. I'm going to it after this. And they invite, they get guys from around San Jose or whatever. And that's great, man. That's totally new people that you get to spread the lifestyle to. It's going to rub off on them. I don't know if it's 1 in 10, 20, 1 in 50, doesn't matter. 1 in 100 will actually come to IMC because they'll see the value of it. A lot of guys, it just doesn't, you ever tell a joke and it's a good joke or it's funny to you, and the other person they don't get it. And you probably experienced it where, like, Sultan, you ever told a joke where you looked at somebody, you told it to them, and then they were looking at you and you were like, you obviously didn't get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that happens quite often, I think.
But does this happen then? So sometimes you tell them a joke and then you watch them and then some seconds later they do get it and you see them get it.
Yeah.
And they light up there,
Yeah. It takes them a second to figure out. It kind of goes over their head first, and then they understand the joke. Yeah.
So that's like the person you communicate with about IMC, and then a year from now he signs up.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And most people in the world, you talk to them, guys, and they don't respond to it. It goes over their head. They're in such a hypnotic trance that when you're talking about it, it doesn't process for them. And that's fine. We're just here to find our people. You don't need to save everybody you talk to. You're not going to save most of them. But in time, they may come around when you're at a different level of success and, you're able to communicate it differently and they're able to process it differently. People are really messed up how they were brought up and everything. Their relationships with their parents, man, they're thick. Mentally, it's thick. And you got to have some armor-piercing bullets to get through that of wisdom. And if not, it's just going to get stuck before it really gets through to them. So conditions of existence, coming up in your condition, improving your condition, where you are, where you've been, what's your post, and what are the duties of that post. And now when you have that, now it's who are you? Don't forget, who are you? You're not your name. You are the ghost in the shell. Ghost in the costume. You could go any direction you want in life. You could make any number of decisions as the ghost in the shell. So if you're deciding to do this post, now it's time to get to work and put some stats on the board. Like base 2 guys, they're keeping track of all the new people that come to their barbecues and how much they're spending on food. Perfect. That's a professional. You know, if base 5 did that, every base has different strategies. My base, this base 1, it works because I formed it with AZD and I already had stats on the board. And my stats had to do with AZD, so it was like a very integrated thing. So it's like living with them made my stats go up because that's the thing I'm doing. So, you know, everybody's figuring it out for themselves. But it's been immensely useful in this lifestyle for me as I have to keep up with AZD's movement and I'm supporting how he's living because he doesn't do the work. He does the work of teaching. He doesn't do the work of behind the scenes. He has creative ideas. He sends some messages and that's, you know, it's coming from a high level. So like we have the new camp out, what is it? Shadow Walkers. And, you know, his stats are on the board with relationships and new women and the quality of women. The stats are there. And, you know, so when you're talking to somebody that's like really high level at sales, at the thing that you're trying to sell, and he's got some lines, some sales lines, some perspectives, maybe some frames or ways of seeing the relationship and the dynamic. And I understand from yoga, teaching yoga so much that you almost start to see somebody's skeleton. Like if you study anatomy, you start to see their skeleton when they're doing yoga or walking or whatever. When you look at people, you see their posture. You know, if you've studied energy or chakras or something, you start to see people's chakras. You study aura, you start to see their auras. If you study bodybuilding, you start to see their muscle development or whatever. You see more of what you are looking for, what you've studied, what you're familiar with. You know, if you study pickup, you see when the guy more clearly, you see when he's leaning in or not over the shoulder or showing too much interest or whatever. You see more of what it is. And, you know, it's amazing the patterns you can recognize. There's layers of patterns on top of patterns. So as you get more familiar with the subject, more masterful at it, it's just, that's when we say high level. It's like you're seeing patterns of cause and effects that everybody else is still way in the forest. They're looking at the next tree right in front of them versus someone have recognized the patterns of trees and like, okay, and now this must be where water is because the trees are denser over here. You know, this must be where there's, you know, termites or whatever, because it's the way that the trees are a little bit different color. And it's like you start to read through the experience and navigate this forest or whatever from a higher level. So many analogies could be made, like a sailor that over time you start to see that when clouds look like that, that means in 2 days' time, there'll be a certain kind of wind. It's like, what? But you'd have to be sailing so much to know that. And at the higher levels, there may be something, yeah, it would be in 2 days, except see how there's that other layer of clouds. That means it's actually going to shift. And so there's like a new layer of perspective. And, you know, so with Shadow Walkers and the up stats and where he's coming from with relationships, the way that he'll be teaching is, where was I going from that? I was stats, get your stats up, conditions, feel better about yourself. Stats are up. Well, yes, this lifestyle. So he's been able to really expand and explore those relationships as I've taken the workload off of him and onto me. But now I also want to do that because that's what this lifestyle is. So it's called delegating the responsibilities and the tasks. Meanwhile, I'm still a student. So I'm learning, even though 37 and whatever, but I was a student of many things. So you start over at white belt. When I started doing jujitsu, I wasn't good. Started over at white belt. So what if I was a brown belt or a black belt, so to speak, in wrestling years ago, start over anew? You know, when I started doing environmental science after engineering, industrial engineering was totally new. I had no idea about phosphorus, nitrogen, and potassium, like the 3 main elements that plants need to grow, PK and N. That's basic. Gardeners know that. I didn't even know that. I was going into a PhD program as environmental science, starting at 0, no understanding of it. So many things. Guitar, you start over new. But when you start something over out of the enjoyment of it, it's not that big to like, it's not a big deal to like take the time to grow because you enjoy the process. But, you know, this lifestyle, AZD had developed it over many years, decades, really. And also, in many cases, I have to like re-educate or uneducate myself to re-educate myself. Like in schooling, 12 and a half years of higher education, I got a bunch of ideas that had nothing to do with getting women, this lifestyle. Like I was telling the guys on Instagram I've been messaging with, and it's like, bro, isn't it amazing that you could go like 25 years and study all sorts of subjects, get degrees, graduate high school, all kinds of things you could study. And nowhere in there is any curriculum at all that improves your wanting to get women or improves your ability to get women. And yet you're going through all that schooling to get women. Isn't that amazing? You're going through all that schooling for a higher paying job, or somehow the fraternity life, or the college campus life where there's more access to women supposedly, or an athlete or something. You're doing the college experience to get the woman of your dreams or women of your dreams. And yet nowhere from birth until then, until you graduate, are you getting any education or experience, like coaching, on how to get women. You're getting experience because you're out there and you're doing whatever, but that's like playing pickup soccer with the neighborhood kids, but never having a coach. You're going to be, what are you going to be? You're probably going to be 1 foot dominant, and you may figure out some juking and jiving, but you're not going to figure out all the tricks that you can do with a soccer ball to trick somebody out. You might look up some YouTube videos and learn some stuff, but you'll come up into obstacles where you'll be hurting your ankles, or, you're just not going to learn the technique properly because there's a lot not shown on a YouTube video. There's, warm-up exercises. A coach is invaluable. You're not going to get ever a full education through the video. So it's like, until you get a coach on this thing, considering the culture is totally, oh man, there's a whole courtship model. You're just not born knowing how to do it as a man. She's not born knowing how to do like her role either outside of giving birth. But so if she's not going to be the mother, how does she relate with the man? She's got to learn. And she learns from obviously dad, any male role models, and then, brothers, whatever she learns throughout life, just like the guy learns throughout life. And what we're learning from the culture is making everybody very weak. And that's why everybody's in this hypnosis, chasing money, chasing the bag, career, all these things, not realizing they're really trying to scratch the itch of a good relationship. They don't have love. What they experience from their parents, or, definitely what they're experiencing in the relationships, and it has better and better levels to it as you improve on this thing. And that's one thing I'm really realizing, because I know my relationships are very good and I want them to be better. But when I look around, I see everybody else is having much, much worse relationships. And sometimes I forget that. I don't measure because I'm in this like cocoon. I'm in like IMC base 1. I go out just a little bit. I'm only interacting with my girls, and like, the world is messed up out there. And they don't have a grip on it. They don't have a hold. So we have a hold. And it's amazing the correlation between L. Ron Hubbard's writings and living this lifestyle, because you have to be so much on your own terms to succeed in this stuff. I mean, when I was a PhD student, I had to really be self-disciplined to get my shit done. They don't hound you for homework. They don't hound you to finish the report that you turn in, the publication, or are you prepared for presentation or to teach the college class, or you just got to be prepared. You got to do it on your own. And, there's the threat of being kicked out or something if you don't do it, but like, there's nobody breathing down your neck to do it. But that pales in comparison. Yes, for sure. Come to class. Are you on class? Come to class. Tomorrow's open class, 10 a.m. Guys, open class tomorrow, 10 a.m. So DM me if you want to come on the Instagram accounts. So that pales in comparison to the self-discipline that I needed to build a yoga business, because I had to do all the outreach, find the people to reach out to, follow through with all my promo, do the whole business. And then of course, show up on time, show up early, really schedule everything for myself. It was like, man, I got to do everything for myself. At least at school, they provided the office space and I was being paid. I just had to produce bare minimum. Basically, when you're on salary, you just produce bare minimum. Now I was living by my own survival, or it was a transition, right? I was doing yoga while I was also finishing PhD. But as soon as PhD was done, I go to India, come back. Now I have no income. I had no business with IMC. I was just totally a student. How am I going to survive? I had to get stats on the board. I had to make money. Somehow I had to convince people to give me their money. So I taught them. So for whatever reason, which would be, I would teach them something or sell them digital product or something of me and my hard work with yoga work. not just physical work. It used to be physical work being a wrestler. It was all physical work. You could measure how many push-ups, how many sprints, how many matches you trained a day, whatever, how many miles you ran. You could measure all that stuff physical, and you felt the exertion. But when I went into PhD, it's like, that's mental work. Got to produce mentally. There was no physical to it. Didn't matter how physical I was with the computer, I had to produce intelligent work. Then when I go into the yoga business, I needed both, because I needed physical attributes, physical advancement, improving my condition physically, not just flexibility, but like health, well-being, awareness, physical awareness, all these things. I had to get better as a yogi, and I had to put in the mental work to organize my business and do it all. And I went through a lot of highs and lows, and not having money for 3 years, dude. 3 years. As soon as I got money, that's when Arash was like $25,000 program. So then I lost all my money. Plus I went into 23 grand debt, more debt. I already had like a bunch of debt, but it gave me this position, which now I've made much more than I paid. And what I've done is invaluable, because I proved I could do it. I did it with myself. I built my yoga business while studying IMC, later on overlapping some yoga business with IMC business. Then when COVID lockdown happened, I transitioned all to IMC business and took off with it. Still practicing yoga, which is all I ever really wanted to do, was just practice yoga. So, improving condition. Oh, it's just amazing. So it pales in comparison, the self-discipline I needed doing my yoga business as needed to do IMC. Because when I'm doing my yoga business, one, I was living alone, or with a girl, but renting rooms when I traveled and whatever. And I was mostly traveling. And although I did live with BC for some time, so there are some habits that you get living with a guy, but there was so much space between us, and he was doing his own thing, and we didn't have a lot of cohesion like that. We were just cross paths sometimes. So, and it was great while it was. That was probably like the first IMC base unofficially. There was other IMC guys there, David Coker and other guys that lived there. And that helped me tremendously. But otherwise, I'm on the road, and, so you get a lot of bad habits when you're not accountable to other guys that you live with that are on the same process. Then there's, the fact that there is, when you are coordinated with a bunch of guys, you have a schedule. And so getting your shit done versus like, I had all these PhD habits where I could sleep in late, get the work done later. Doing yoga business, I had to learn to wake up earlier, because that's when I needed to make the business calls. I wouldn't have business, and I wouldn't get paid if I didn't do that. So I would have to wake up. Then I'd have to wake up a little bit earlier than that, so that I'm warmed up enough to do business. I got to warm up to do that. I can't just wake up on time to do the business. It wouldn't be good. And so there was that motivation and incentive, but still wavering and not understanding peak performance and how to perform at a peak. That's where the AZD process came in when we first moved in with him. And so we really it enhanced my awareness of peak performance so much. The origins process. So guys, if you check out the origins camp on IMC Base 1, that's what that is, the origins process. Learning to be self-disciplined. And then even still, after graduating origins, living with AZD for 3 years and these other guys, the speed of life of swerving and transitioning your schedule, of having a schedule to transition so that you can quickly coordinate your own life and getting your shit done. But at the same time, you're not a slave to a machine kind of corporation or something. You're supposed to keep your vibe very high, enthusiastic, dynamic. And how you do that that's the process. And, how to use your imagination. And that's a very difficult thing to do when in the world it keeps pulling you into mental matters that really don't have much to do with you. You get stuck in the dramas of life and the mundane minutia of life versus creating. And it's so far-fetched. It's as far-fetched as L. Ron Hubbard is to most people. They're like, LR8, Scientology? What? That's like a cult, right? And they'll never look further. And that's what, when I say how amazing this life is and how fast-paced and self-disciplined you need it, but then they see us going to strip clubs and, these events, these parties, and people don't really know what we do. And, it's just like a self-help group, or is this like men trying to get women kind of group? Like I get it. It's so far-fetched to you. It's like when you tell a joke to someone and they don't get it. That it's it's a shame, but that's 99% of guys out there. But that shouldn't stop you from spreading the message and collecting your people. The people ready to wake up, they wake up. So like at base 4, if you were doing pickup meetups, that makes sense. That makes sense to do a pickup meetup. You don't have to invite everybody over. They should be DMing you and send you a video request to show up, and you can gauge their sanity and whatever. And at the end of the day, there's 4 beasts there. So even if the guy shows up with his friend, I mean, you're safe. You're going to be fine. It's not like you got stacks of gold that they're going to rob you with, and you guys got guns and whatever. And that's the danger and the safety that you need to be able to take. And, that's what it takes to succeed, man. What else are you doing? You're already doing the pickup thing. You just got to schedule like 90 minutes a week to do that. So that on Tuesdays or Thursdays before you go out, you have this 90-minute like get together, and you stream it anyway. You stream it worldwide. You always have an audience. Then you get a staff member to chop it up and then post it, and you get a bunch of views because pickup hashtags are like the bee's knees. That's the shit. And that's overlapping shit, and you start going up stat, up stat, up stat. But when you get higher in stats, then your stats are really dependent on a lot of movements. And so if you start missing one, the stats collapse. And so the higher power you are, the more a mistake crashes you, versus when you're at a low power, mistakes don't crash you. That's why people hold themselves back. They don't push forward because they know that they're going to crash, because they got weak ass behaviors and weak ass beliefs. They may not know it to the degree that they'll say it, but internally they know that they are not worthy of more power. That's why they're not taking the actions to get it. And so we can say from the outside, you're worthy, man. You're worthy. You're worthy. Come on, you're worthy. But until you believe it, it's not a fact. The fact is whatever you believe, because you're the one taking the actions. It's your reality. It's your world. We're living in the same world, but that doesn't mean we're perceiving the same movie the same way. We both watch a movie. We summarize it different. We both experience the same car crash. We talk about it different. We experience life, even if it's the same life. You're experiencing it your way. I'm experiencing it my way. And from your experience, you respond in different ways, and that, cause and effect. You respond, then they respond, then you respond, then they respond. And you find yourself in a wholly different situation because of how you perceive the original way. And that perception has to do with your state of mind. What's your emotional mood and state of mind? A state of emotional state is similar to state of mind. Mind is more referring to the images and mental, but you have feelings with that. And the feelings also have images. They come together. They're not separate. So your state of being, that's going to influence how you perceive the situation. And especially the lower in state you are, the more you'll misperceive it. And that's why, being ecstatic is actually not the highest state, because you will misperceive situations if you're too enthusiastic. There's a blissful contentment, a clear seeing that's unemotional, that's observing, that will see the truth and see what it is. And it's not arbitrary. You don't just go through mood swings and it's just the oceans of the tides of the moon. And that's why I feel it may have some influence, but why are you so moody? Why are you all over the place with your emotions and not knowing why? It's ethics. Ethics gives you a handle on it. You going to base 2?
I want to get some food. Let's go.
You should swing her by base 2.
Oh, dude, those guys are kind of calibrated.
Well, that's how you test it. I mean, that's how you test the bitch, and that's how you test them. You just walk in. We're just gonna say hi to my friends for a minute. Maybe grab a burger. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. And
I'll
you're
probably
out.
already get food, so maybe I'll stop by.
Yeah, it'd be great pre-selection. It'd be social proof for you.
Yeah,
Because I mean,
maybe it was kind of.
I was just thinking about it the other day as a gambit. I mean, the only thing is that they're kind of far out there. It's like 20-minute drive.
True. And I wouldn't want to be there for more than maybe 10 minutes.
No, yeah, 5-10 minutes.
So it's like I'm kind of driving out there just to be there for 10 minutes.
Yeah, the drive is for music and conversation, comfort building, unless she's already comfortable enough to just like come here.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I told Fernando no, but I was kind of like thinking it depends on the chick. It depends where I'm at, where she's at.
You guys were talking about base 2 thing also? Or what do you mean?
No, he just texted me saying if I'm going there.
Oh.
And I said no.
Yeah, it's feasible. I was just thinking about it today. I was like, man, if whatever. Yeah.
I'm just gonna see where she's at.
Yeah. Yeah. It would benefit them too,
Would.
Yeah. Okay. So what else is there to say? there any questions from the audience? We got guys on the Instagrams, guys on Zoom. Like Masculinity podcast. Dang, Stoic Temple's got a bunch of viewers. What are you guys doing? Just like chilling out there. Why don't you come to the Zoom? Weirdos. Gross. That means gross. Get a room. I wonder if this was how valuable this was. I mean, the audience stayed on for the whole time, so it must have been valuable. So you just start. You just got to start. There is the steps, you know, such a journey at 37 now. And when looking back from where I'm, from how I understand my actions now, my discipline, my daily habits, and how that so directly results in my success. If I do it or don't, if I make the schedule or not, and then follow through with my schedule, and I know what tasks I got to do, and blah, 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 blah. And that becomes my success of tomorrow and next week and next month and everything. And when I'm looking back in my life, all the way back to really since forever, I mean, I'm clearly seeing Boy Scouts, wrestling, academics, you know, all of my business endeavors, little business, side businesses, things I've done. And then really on into my PhD yoga business, like I've been describing in the IMC business. And I see that since PhD, so let's say about 20, even master's degree, really. So about 22. So the last 15 years. 15 years, I've been gradually taking more ownership of my schedule, because that's master's is also make your own schedule. My schedule of following through with my word, of not having someone breathe down my neck to accomplish my tasks, to be pursuing goals that are purely just I made the goal. They wanted me to get a job after my bachelor's. I wanted to get the master's. I wanted the PhD. I wanted this and that and this and that. I wanted to live at base one. I wanted this lifestyle. I'm pursuing what I want. And to get there, I got to do the actions to produce the stats that get me there. And so it's been a 15-year journey of me recycling out my negative habits or counter-constructive, destructive habits, and cycling in, replacing the bricks in the wall with the structure and the fortitude to handle the power, the life that I want, the weight of it. And man, that's quite a journey. You know, I feel like old man over here, 37, even though inside I feel like young man. I feel real young. I feel probably like 8 years old, about 8 or 9 years old. But when I say 37, it's like snaps me to reality. Like, dude, you're 37. No, dude, I'm 8. I'm 6, man. And through that last 15 years journey, I see how big the wall is that you got to replace, how big the bricks are, how many bricks there are, how thick this thing is. Man, there's so much to really start to take ownership of your life, because at the root of your habits and behaviors is your mind and your imagination. And you're actually switching out beliefs so that your habits switch out, so that these outer actions switch out. When you're switching out the activities, you're switching out mentally. And mentally, your mind is very big. It's as big as it's big. And it's mostly filled with things you're not aware of what it's filled with. Because when did you really wake up to your mind? When did you start using my mind as part of your vocabulary, referring to my mind and talking about, not just saying mindset. I mean, even mindset, you started saying mindset. Like I was saying mindset back in my wrestling days, 17, 18, 19. But I don't know that I really knew what that was. I knew that it meant like be confident about what I was about to do versus not confident, lacking confidence. That's like a low mindset, high mindset. That was the extent of what I knew about it. I didn't understand images in the mind and how to affect my mindset really, and how to play out what, with my imagination, play out the scenarios, how I want it to be. And that affects my mood. And really we're all just reacting to our imaginations. So you wake up in the morning and don't even know why you're negative. You had dreams, you forgot it, but you reacted to them. As you become more and more aware of your mind, like through the transcendental meditation process that we all do, and you'll start to and you study IMC tech, meaning AZD, communication technology, you start to see and perceive when someone says something that rubs you the wrong way, you feel negative later. You didn't rebuttal, you didn't say the right thing and handle it right. You might even feel negative right away as you get more and more sensitive. And not sensitive in a fragile way. I'm not saying being fragile, I'm saying being sensitive. Have a sensitive instrument. It's like having a scale, you're weighing yourself, and have a scale that weighs you to the ounce. But it can weigh up to 10,000 pounds to the ounce. So there's a difference in sensitivity versus fragility. Most sensitive scales can't go that heavy. Heavy scales aren't sensitive. But how can you maximize your sensitivity and your weight capacity? You know what I'm saying, in life. So, as you get better at this instrument, it's like being a spacecraft that's super heavy, big, but it can turn on a dime. It's high level technology. That's the technology of the mind, rhyming. So, what was I saying? Stats. The process of switching out your mind is mostly filled with all these things. Like, when did you really wake up to your mind? Me, I was at like 27, 28, 29. That's when I started waking up to it. And I'm still waking up to it more and more and more. To the point now, I realize that every time I'm in a negative mood, I'm playing out negative images, negative storylines. I'm talking to myself negatively. And it's just the result of I am the effect of my own unconscious thoughts. But can I become conscious of them? And that's like an exploration. It's an invisible battle, an invisible conquest that nobody sees because it's invisible. It's only visible to me. And not with these eyes, but with my inner eyes. And other people only see the results. Am I uptone, downtone? And that's what people notice about you. Are you uptone or downtone? Tonality meaning your tone of emotion. And they react to that. Your vibe, your vocabulary, your tonality comes from that. And then you also got to calibrate. So some people, they get all happy and whatever, and they miscommunicate. And it pulls people down, and then they react to that, and then they get pulled down because they miscommunicated. They didn't have the ethics of communication to handle that tone. So you got to bring up your communication so that you handle that tone level. Same thing when you're negative. People are negative, they communicate in a way that just perturbs everybody around them. But if you have the tech of communication, you can express yourself in a way that even though you're feeling negative, doesn't make other people feel negative. And you will improve your condition from there. That's a level of mastery that you don't ruin your world. And that's what's needed if you're going to be Donald Trump or some high power level of something and everybody's listening to you, every word you say, always cameras on you. Man, I'm sure the guy feels negative sometimes. You got to internally, real quickly on a dime, swerve. When that negative thought comes in, when that enemy of the mind comes in, phew, you have a handle for that. Or if it does latch onto your energy system and you're negative feeling, you have communication skills that resolve what's going on or handles it in a way that just creates protection for yourself. So you can move, you can breathe. And situations, they get heavier and heavier in life. We go through pulses and waves. Nothing is linear. Nothing is the same direction. Whatever, just going in one direction always. It's always up, always down. So we encounter new levels of tribulation and bring order to it. Live through it. You will survive. Like I was telling the guy on Origins lecture yesterday, and he was having trouble with his wake up or whatever, but a high business guy. The guy's, I don't think he's lying. This is a guy on Alpha Academy. He's talking about working a $200 million deal right now. And he's not even that excited about the business of it anymore, but people's lives are at stake and he's just got to follow through with it and blah, blah, blah. And, but he has trouble making his wake up time and he goes out and parties and whatever. Kind of an interesting character. And, what I'm telling him is like the lockdown process came about during lockdown when we all realized that, or we had already realized it, but we were forced on a very visible physical level. We were shown that we are prisoners, that we don't have control of our lives. We already knew that from taxes, from, the law, like, a lot of people have the ideas that we're all sheeple or we're slaves or, whatever. Maybe some people have the idea we're prison planet. So everything you're talking about is Scientology. No, kind of the backbone, the spine of the conversation is about ethics and improving your condition. And that is L. Ron Hubbard's writings. I wouldn't call it Scientology because that's a church organization. And, you know, it is an introduction to Scientology ethics. So I guess I would say that. It comes with all these caveats because Scientology is associated with what other people use it for. And that's just not what I'm referring. I'm just referring to the writings of LRH. So, I was saying, oh man, it was some good point. Lifestyle, switching out the bricks in your mind, mindset, swerving on a dime, tech, this tech. New tribulations, bringing order to it, living. Oh, the origins. Man, see how I just backtracked through that? That's amazing. So I'm telling them, we see so physically that we're prisoners on this planet. We already knew that in IMC Nation, the highest level IMC Nation, the messengers, through the language and the homophones in language and all of the traps in language, so that even when we're saying good things like hello has the word hell in it, or good morning has the word morning in it. And so these things are downtoned, and there's like so many of these in the English language, and English took over the world. And there's things that block our awareness from higher levels of awareness. Our language is blocking our awareness from going up to that. And so we clearly saw during lockdown that, man, and then we start going into the documentaries and the red pill of it. And it's like, fuck, dude, we are slaves. And then when we go through Cosmic Disclosure and, Above Majestic and all of these different documentaries, it's like, wait, are we under ET rule? Are you telling me that this planet, well, shit, that actually kind of makes sense. But man, fuck. And so it can be discouraging, but it just, for me as a Stoic, helps me separate what's not in my control. And I'll start to feel happier when I'm focused on the things in my control. So coming from behind bars, a man at the top levels of gang society who was able to survive 19 years in solitary confinement, where most people will go crazy after 6 months. You wake up before you have to, because the warden says you got to wake up at 5 a.m. You wake up at 4 a.m. because that's how you have pride. That's how you separate from the rules they impose on you. That's the origins process. Because he's talking about lacking enthusiasm, and this guy in the origins camp, different things. He saw how it affects his mood. It's one thing he just hasn't really tried. I get it. I was so bad. I was the worst at Wake Up. I was the worst in IMC Nation. I lived with AZD and I missed it probably 19 out of 20. And I have my reasons, this and that, blah, blah, blah. I did a lot of what I was talking about on officers meeting today, work. I did a lot of mental work. And few people, and I don't know that it's even necessary, will understand or be able to measure the work I went through internally, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to anybody else. What matters is the results. You make your wake up or you don't. So what if I had so many beliefs and experiences that was just fucking with me and fucking up with my ability to just wake up on time, given we're lacking sleep and we were doing what we were doing at that time. But it's like, that's what I'm saying. There's all these excuses. All that matters is you make it. And that's part of ethics. You'll feel better about yourself when you say you do it and then you do it. And when you do it before you have to, that's how you keep your sanity on this prison planet. Otherwise, you're going to go insane, dude. All these things. When you come home when you say you're going to come home. Or lock down. We leave. You can change it, but you have to voice it. I mean, you don't have to voice it. There may be nobody feasibly, theoretically, there may be nobody that you're talking to about it. But it needs to be acknowledged by you, and then you follow through. And that's why it's difficult if there's nobody that, to have the agreement with. There is something to the accountability of, let's say, living with some guys and we're out at midnight where it's like, okay, guys, we're leaving at 12:30. And then at 12:20, something really amazing is happening. Let's push it to 12:45. Okay. Is that all right? Yes. Okay. Agreement. Versus you're out by yourself and it's going well. And you're like 12:30, 1:30, 2. And you find yourself just keep chasing pleasure. And then it's super late and you come home and then it's like, oh man, where was your post? What was your post? Were you treasonous to that post? Did you abandon your post or what? So let's see. Right on, Sean Murphy, Cirque du Soleil. Okay, this has been going for a while. Thank you, everybody. I think that there's a lot of gems scattered in that, but I don't know the cohesion of it. But just take the actions, man. I know the ladder you're gonna have to climb. I know something about it. I know my own ladder, and there's, like I've said, there's so many things that you may never recognize or ever see that I've had to go through for myself. And just like we won't recognize what you had to go through, we only see the outside and how it manifests. But you'll have that pride, you'll have that intelligence, how to work it, and the experience and wisdom. And that's just super powerful. The next level, a lot of times, level 2 is not twice as much. It's not twice as much that's needed for level 2 over level 1. It's 10 times as much. The next level takes 10 times as much. Each level is an order of magnitude. We want it to be twice as much. It's not. It's 10 times as much. We want the mountain to be closer. It's not. It's just so big, it looks close. But keep going, because you're going in the right direction. You just got to keep going, man. Don't let the mountain beat you. All right, everybody. See you next time. Leave your comments, review, Apple Podcast, Spotify, all that good stuff. Enlightened Masculinity. Jay Guru Dev. Praise the Lord. Os.